for tuning in to Revision Publishing, Black Women Writing Children's Book with our special guest, Crystel Patterson. And I am going to introduce her first before we get into all of our conversation. So, Crystel Patterson is a hardworking mother of 2 boys, a wife, an active member of her community, and a self-published children's book author. She recently published her first children's book titled 1 Flip, 2 Flip, 3 Flip, 4, which is a part of her book series entitled Inspired to Be. Her book series is a direct outcome of a question her then 8-year-old son asked her following the murder of George Floyd. Why does the police keep killing Black people? In that moment, she wanted her son to know a different and better narrative. The vision for the Inspired to Be book series came to her a couple of nights later while she was reading a bedtime story to both of her sons. They were so into the story that she started to wonder how the story in that very moment was shaping their young minds. She started to think about how books help children to develop their own narratives and how important it is for children to see themselves in characters, especially when characters are positive. So she decided to write stories inspired by the culture, experience, and dreams of Black people with the goal of using stories to help change the narrative of Black people in the minds of all children and spread inspiration. So like I'm honored and encouraged and all of that through your series. I do have the first of the series. What you all don't know is that there are actually 2 more books in the series. The second one, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about today because that's the one that she's promoting today, is I Am Different. But you definitely want to get all of them. So making sure you start off with book 1 and then you make your way through the whole series. So welcome, Crystel. Thank you for being here. How are you on this Sunday evening?
Thank you for having me. I'm good, dealing with kids and stuff. So while you were reading the interview, I kept looking that way, and it's because I was trying to signal to my close the door. But yeah, other than that,
don't come
blessed and doing well.
Absolutely. Like we know, I mean, the whole world, like we've been getting used to being indoors, the quarantine, like also doing things virtually. So I think like the world like understands at the same time. My daughter's probably somewhere downstairs, like I'm in another room, like secluded. But I mean, that's also what comes with the territory, right? Of being a mom and being an author and working hard. Like you have to find these times where you have the space to be able to do this work. So I commend you. I honor you today. Before we start talking about the actual book, I've been doing this with all my interviews. I use what's called empowering questions. One day I'm gonna have to design my own for the purpose of this, but it's a deck, right, of 52 colorful cards that contain questions that you can use for meditation, for writing, or with any other empowering process that you like. So with the help of the card, you can examine your deeper self. You can discover and release your inner strength and bring more energy into your life. So because I use this in coaching sessions and it's a really good way to kind of like break the ice and start with a nice pleasantry, I pulled a card at random, which I'm going to read out loud to you, and you're going to answer it just based on how you interpret the question. So the question is, what kind of advice on life would my old self give to my current self?
That's funny. I think the advice that my old self would give to my current self, maybe like my current self a year ago, maybe, but like my old self is just, it's okay not to know what your purpose is. It will come to you when you least expect it. So just be patient. It's coming. Because that's how I feel about this journey I'm on as an author now. I've never really felt like I knew what my purpose was. And the last place I would have looked for it is in writing. And now that I'm doing it, and from how you read the bio, how I came across it, it just lit a passion in me. And now I completely feel like it is my purpose. And so Yeah, it's just this uneasiness that a lot of people have, just like, I don't know what my purpose is. And you have those talks at Kwanzaa and just like with groups of friends. And I always like kind of faked it, you know, because I felt like I didn't know what my purpose was. But it's okay. It's going to come to you when you least expect it.
So when everything took place, and what's crazy is that it's almost been a year, right, since the murder of George Floyd took place, right? Memorial Day weekend, and here we are just a few weeks later in June, and just seeing and knowing what you just kind of shared about, you felt it in your body, you know, you kind of felt it in your soul, and like now you took that moment and created now 3 books, right? But this second book, like how do you feel now knowing that what once was a thought of inspiration is now manifested? Where are you now with where that work is going? Have you achieved some of the things that you set out to do with changing that narrative? And how do you see the work moving forward?
Yeah, you know, it feels awesome. Like every time I just pick up my book and hold it, and it's like a physical thing, it feels awesome, and it feels unreal sometimes. Like I can't believe like I'm an author. But you know, I have to let it settle, and I realize that I am. And like when I go on Zoom and I read to students and I see that they're excited to see an author, it makes me feel like I can be a source of inspiration for children. Not just the stories in the books, but me myself, I can be a source of inspiration for children. And so, you know, I see it going in big places. You know, I have to be patient, but I see it going in big places. Like you mentioned that I have 3 books in the series, but this series is set up to be just an unlimited. I have no limit of how many books I'm going to add to it, because it's all based on the premise of using the stories of real people who are Black to inspire all children. And I feel like there are so many inspirational stories that I just want to capture in my form of storytelling so that I can inspire the children of the future, right? The children right now who are going to be adults in the future. And I want to continue to plant these seeds of inspiration so, you know, they can grow with it. And so I don't know exactly what that looks like, you know, as far as like, you know, selling a lot of copies and stuff, but my focus right now is just trying to become known in my community as an author, and making schools know I'm here, that the parents know I'm here, and the organizations that's working are focused on child literacy. I just want them to know that I'm here at least right now, right? And then I'll grow from there, but that is my focus. So I've been just really trying my best to be out in the community as an author. You know, now, before I was out in the community as a different person, same person, a different role. So now I'm just trying to make sure people know that I'm an author. This is the kind of stuff that I'm doing, and I'm here, you know.
And so you mentioned your 2 sons, and I know that they're a lot of the inspiration behind how you transitioning into becoming an author pretty much came to be. And I know that you hold a lot of hats, right? Roles and titles as a mom, as a wife, and even what you do, you know, outside of writing in your professional career. And so how does that all kind of play into the work that you're feeling passionate about to do in your purpose work? How does that all play together?
Well, that's an interesting question. So the work that I'm doing was inspired but the work that I'm doing is not just for my kids. It's, you know, it's for all kids, right? And you know, the work that I do in my day job, which is also a very demanding job, I do that. You know, we do serve the community in a sense, because I'm a technology consultant for a large systems integration company, and we work primarily with the government. So every project that I've done, I could see the impact that it's had on our communities. So I've always also felt like that I was doing meaningful work there. The difference now is that with my books, I'm doing something that's going to impact my legacy and my family's legacy. Whereas the work that I do in my day job, that's impacting somebody else's legacy. And so finding a balance right now of like that and my books, and also a balance with my family and how much I'm promoting my books, because the marketing and promotion piece, we'll probably talk about that later, is a beast. And so, I mean, one of these jobs pays the bills, the other one doesn't quite yet, so it's just trying to find some balance, but they're definitely all touching on each other.
Right. And because as a fellow author, right, it is a lot of work that goes into it. And especially if not being in that place where, like you said, we're still working a day job and we're also, pursuing this writing career as well. And sometimes the two conflict, right? It's like, okay, when do I put certain things to the side to then focus on writing and then put other things to the side? But one of the things that I feel like truly passionate about that's kind of coming out of the pandemic and like just moving forward to get to that point to make decisions. What do you think it would take? And I'm not even, I don't want to like put career, prospects and things on you, but what would it take for you to then be able to pursue the passion and the purpose work over kind of like the day job?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, and I don't want y'all to think I'm all about money, but there's sometimes the security. I just feel like I need to feel secure, and my day job makes me feel very secure, and it would be a lot to walk away from. My husband is building his law firm, so he's kind of in that stage of like uncertain income, like it's making money, but it's not certain like mine. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I tell people I want to do this type of thing, like where I envision a seesaw, where like my books are on this side of the seesaw and my day job is on this side. And right now it's like this, where my day job is just getting a lot, like it's more important. It has to be more important right now because that's our livelihood, right? But I want the seesaw to go like this, right? To where I can slowly start working less and less of my job and more of the author side until I don't have to work my day job anymore. And so my job is flexible like that, where I can scale back on hours and have like these flexible work arrangements where I can still get benefits, health insurance, all that, retirement, all that stuff. But, I don't have that commitment of working like a full-time job. So I'm hoping that like gradually I can like just switch it, until I no longer need the security from my day job and I can pour everything into my writing.
And that's the thing that some people don't like know or understand, especially with going into independent publishing or self-publishing. It's almost like you see somebody else do it and you're like, oh, they can do it, like I can do it, it must be easy, right? And not even have a clue as to all of the work, all of the money, all of the time, energy, I say blood, sweat, and tears, you know what I mean, that goes into that project. Right. So what are some of the things that you didn't know before that you know now and that you feel like you have learned to take yourself into the next season of Inspired to Be?
Yeah, so I definitely, I mean, I feel like I was told it, but I didn't quite believe it, just how important marketing is and how like that is like never done. The work, like marketing yourself and just putting yourself out there, it really is a full-time job. Right now, I feel like I have 2 full-time jobs. I work my day job, and then in the evenings, I'm taking care of the business part of like my business, my author business.
Right,
I guess
absolutely.
I don't know what to call it. Fulfilling orders, responding to emails or sending out emails, trying to put myself out there, trying to like engage on social media, like all of this stuff, like it gets to be a lot on the weekends. Now I've been really trying to actively be in the community. So I've been going to like local festivals, local events, and just to be present as an author, and another way to sell my books as well. And so, you know, that's one thing I just like wish I would have took more serious, and maybe accounted for like maybe a marketing budget so that maybe someone could help me with that. A lot of work. So I'm working on the budget piece for that. But you know, it's been a lot. The world of self-publishing is larger than I knew. Now I'm like, I didn't realize how many self-published authors there were. And I mean, I'm sure there's some other things that I learned. I can't think of them all quite yet, but I've been learning a lot. I've been learning a lot. I feel like every day I'm like finding out something new, a new way to like do this from a business standpoint. But one thing I will say is that like you might see an author and you think they're an author, but there's so much more. Like, you know, like you and I were talking the other day, Akila, like you got to be so tech savvy, you know, setting up stuff like this, and you know, you running the whole operation because we don't have like a team of people that's doing this for us. So
right,
yeah, you get real smart real fast on how to just be, you know, like I manage my own website right now, and I had to learn, you know, I never managed a website before. And so,
right.
Yeah, you learn real fast on how to be self-sufficient and get things done.
Absolutely. And you also learn the power of a team. And so when you realize just how, you know, close knit and tight knit your circle needs to be. So whether it's, you know, because we're still growing, right? So we're not to the point where we can like pay a whole team and like have a photographer and a videographer and a website designer and somebody who's going to do merchandising and like all that stuff, right? So people don't understand like there is a grassroots ground level, right, where you start out where you end up managing all of those different pieces, and just the power of a supportive village and network of people who are willing, you know, at those beginning stages to be able to support the dream, right? And believe in it and invest in it. And so how has your, you know, village helped and supported you to keep you encouraged and motivated during this whole process?
Yeah, so I feel like my village has been very supportive. Just from like buying the books, telling people about it, when I share, you know, information about like events that I'm doing or anything, like, you know, they'll come out and support, they'll share it. I have this worry that I'm gonna like wear out my village though, like, you know, because it's like, it's one thing to like put a book out there and have them support it, but then I'm like, okay, here's another book for you guys to support.
And guess what?
I have another one coming.
Right.
So yeah, you know, so I worry that I'm gonna wear out my village. And so my biggest thing right now is how do I extend my village? Right? How do I get more people to get on board and see the vision that I have and believe in the vision and want to see that vision come true just as much as I do? That's what I'm working on.
Absolutely. And I think that goes a lot back to kind of what you were mentioning about the marketing aspect, right? Because, you know, I feel the same way. Like my family and friends, they're definitely going to support, right? But I'm like, yeah, and I want that and I need it, you know, absolutely. But I also want the people who don't know, you know, who I am, that are not supporting because they love me, but they're supporting because they heard of this book and they're like, oh my God, like this is amazing. I really want to get this book for my child. And so it's so many different ways that you can market. There's so many different, you know, avenues that you can take, you know what I mean? And so I know that other people have supported your book that you don't know. And so when was that first moment when you received kind of like information, knowledge, or maybe you saw it like online of someone who wasn't a part of your village, who supported your book, and what was that experience like for you?
Oh my gosh, I know the exact moment. So someone on Instagram that I now follow messaged me about my book before, and I was confused because I'm like trying to like figure out, do I know her? Like, because she doesn't actually have pictures of herself in her pictures,
right.
like, you know, so she has like pictures of like all these other things, but not of herself. So I'm like, who is this person? So I decided to start a conversation with her to find out, hey, how do we know each other? You know? And she told me that there was like a live that I did with this other like book influencer, and she heard it and she was really inspired by my story. She went and she got the book and she left me the best review. Like it was the first review by someone that I didn't actually know. And it was like, it said something along the lines like, every child should read this book. This is a must read. And she goes into details. And I was like so happy, and not to like undervalue the reviews from my friends and family, but this review in particular, like I was like, she ain't got nothing to gain by writing that review, right? And so I'm like, that really gave me like a feeling like what I'm putting out is real, and like it really is having the impact that I want it to have. Like she believes in what I wrote, right? And she feels like every child needs to read it. So I was over the moon after I read that. And now like I still have these moments when like I get an order and I'm like, who is this person? I've never seen this name. And I'm trying to search for the connection. Like how could they have heard of me?
Right.
And I'm so excited to ship out those books. I like write a note to them and everything, because I'm just so excited. And I have these moments now where like I'm like at a market selling my books, and then someone's like, oh, we have that book already, or that book's in our school. And I'm just like, oh, how did you hear about it?
Right. That is amazing.
It's amazing.
And
you see the book making its rotation in the world, right? Like it's getting out there.
Circle, like, okay, yeah. I'm in the community, right? Those are the things that you put out, right? That are manifesting, you know, for real. And when I think about what you're saying about, you know, every child should read this book, every child should have this book, because one of the things that I want to make sure like that we touch on, and that's clear, right, is that the journey of as a Black woman, right, in this book industry may not be the same, right, for every other person. And I ask myself these questions when putting out books. But this beautiful cover, right, because this is the one that I have with me, has a beautiful brown girl on the cover. And when I think about books, right, that are for all children, I believe, because I love books, that I would buy any book that looks good and entertaining, right, for my child, for her library. I absolutely love to purchase books that have characters that look like her, because they're not as frequent in, let's say, the bookstores, or like in those what I want to call them, the like traditional like settings, right? And so when you were putting out this book, I know that it was written for all children, but like, what was your experience like putting out this specific book, and I Am Different, knowing that you are a Black woman, knowing that you're promoting Black characters? Was there any apprehension anywhere, like with sharing the book with people who maybe don't look like you? And how has it been received outside of our community?
Yeah, I had absolutely no apprehension, because I had a very clear vision of what it needed to be. And I also made it very clear, because I've had moments where I'm talking to someone and they're like, oh, these are books for Black kids. And I always correct them, because I want people to know books are for all children. So it started from, you know, being inspired by my kids to write it. Once I started writing it, I started seeing how, like, you know, any child, regardless of what color they are, need to read these stories. And because they can draw inspiration from Black people, right, from our experiences, from our stories. And matter of fact, they should be able to be inspired by us, just like we've read books that have white people on the cover and we've been inspired by it, right? So even more so, I want kids who are not Black to also read my books. And you know, me sometimes when I'm out talking about the books and stuff, and she asked me the other day, what do you say when it's a white person coming up? And I say the same exact thing. Yeah, it's the same thing, right? It's the timing couldn't be better. I will say
Right.
that, right? Like everyone's on board with, representation,
Absolutely.
things being somewhat more equal. Like people are on board with this. So the timing couldn't be better for us to be more bold about stuff like this. I actually just had a review done by someone who reviews on her blog, and then she puts it in, other platforms. And I was reading the review, and it was a really good review. She loved the book. She loved the writing. She thought everything was well done. She liked how I rhymed and everything. Her one thing, she kind of was like, I wish it was more diversity in this book, the one I Am Different. She's like, I wish it was more diverse. And I was like, she didn't read what my books are about, because I mean, there's other races in the book, but I want our experiences to be told, right? The experience of a Black person. And so, that book is very specifically about things that Black children might go through. But if you look at it at the surface level, that's what it is. But if you take it a level up, then you realize it is a universal message, right?
Right.
It's just that the children I'm talking about right now, these are the issues that they face. Maybe somebody might talk about their hair or their skin complexion or their name, but any child could look at that and see the universal message. People are going to like some things about you, and some people aren't going to like those same things about you. And it's up to you to decide, how you want to respond to that. And it's important to just embrace what makes you different. And so I thought it was funny that you said that it should be more diverse. But, I'm going to continue to put the images of us in these books, because that is what my vision is. And so that's my perspective on telling this story about being different.
I think that it is like necessary, right, to keep our images frequent and in the forefront, because the more that other people see them, the more comfortable that they become with seeing them, and the more it becomes normalized, right? That again, you don't have to mention it needs to be more diverse, because it in itself is diversity, because it is a different perspective. It's a different lens.
Right.
And I know that it makes people uncomfortable, right? Who don't necessarily look like us. But on the same side, if I'm honest, as an author, sometimes it makes me uncomfortable, because I also don't want to be pigeonholed, right, into the this is a Black book box. Now, granted,
right,
I do want to be in the Black book box, right, to be able to like share with our community as Black authors and Black all of that. But at the same time, I also don't want to be stuck there. Like, yes, this book can represent and can support people of our community, but at the same time, it can also support people of other communities. And that's how they're able to get a glimpse and see like into a world that they may never experience, because maybe they don't have, a friend or a family member who they can connect with, just to see how alike we all are, right? Like that. Yeah, exactly. I am different, right? And then I'm also the same. Like we have a lot of similarities. So I love it, especially seeing just books that just talk about different things. And I know, is it the I Am Different one where you kind of go deep, where you were like, you weren't sure about the message and how it would be received. And so I want you to talk a little bit about what was the intended message for that book, and why do you feel like it's necessary for young people to receive that message and to understand it now?
Yeah. So yeah, it is I Am Different. And when I was writing, I actually wrote this book one way first, and then I rewrote the completely, because I was like, oh man, that made me sad. Like I feel bad. So I wanted to like pep it up a little bit and make it more fun, but still keep the message in there. And I feel like it's really important to go deep at a young age, because you have no idea what our kids are dealing with at a younger and younger age these days. Like it's crazy. Like my little sister like was called the N-word when she was like in kindergarten, like by another kindergartner. Like,
right.
How does that happen? Right. And just like kids are mean, like sometimes they just think they're having fun and they're not realizing that they could be hurting somebody's feelings. Like, you know, my son came home talking about somebody was talking about like his hairline. They're trying to be funny, but like it was actually hurting his feelings, right? And so I think at a young age, it's important for kids to learn empathy, and but also for kids who are on the other side of like, you know, hearing these mixed messages of like your hair looks weird or your hair is beautiful, like for them to understand how to process that right at an early age. Because I think you can respond one of two ways. You can succumb to that and just like really feel like, you know, I'm not going to love this thing about myself because this is what these kids are telling me. Or you can say, I'm going to love myself just the way I am because this is what like my friends and my family over here are telling me. And so it's like really up to you to decide how you want to respond. And so this book was inspired by someone who I really liked how she responded to being bullied, right? Like she, her name is Karis Rogers, and you know, she's I think 14 years old now. She has a successful business. She has a clothing line called Flexin' and My Complexion. And that all came about because when she was younger, she used to get bullied for being dark skinned. And so, you know, I wasn't there with her, but from how I read the story, it sounded like because she was raised with people who uplifted her and had her believe that her complexion was beautiful by telling her things like flex in your complexion, that when she went out into the world and someone tried to belittle that thing about her, she didn't let it like affect her in the way that they wanted it to affect her. And so she started her own clothing line at the age of 10 and was on New York Fashion Week. And that clothing line is to uplift other kids dealing with that same thing. So I thought that was an empowering message. And though she was 10, I think kids younger than that need to kind of hear that message if it is something that they're dealing with, or if they're on the other side where they're the one maybe being mean to someone, maybe we'll help them understand like how their words affect people, you know? And so sometimes I spoke to a friend about this book, and I was like, she does like therapy with kids. And so I was like, man, I feel like it might hit too deep. And she's like, no. She's like, this is the message that kids need to hear, and they need to hear it early. And she was kind of telling me some stories about the kind of things that she deals with in therapy. And that kind of helped me believe like, no, like it's a gentle way of telling the story. And, you know, kids could take a lot from it. And it's okay to tell the story at this age for them, right? So I say this book, my series, I say is from like age 3 to 8. But this book, I've even read it to like 4th graders, which are like 10-year-olds. And I had a really good time reading this book to them and having good dialogue with them because it reads kind of older because of the topic, you know. But little kids can read it and have good dialogue with their parents about it. And you can kind of see where they are at their age and what they're dealing with, if they're even dealing with something like this yet. So,
to initiate a lot of important conversations that parents, you know, can have with their children, that teachers, you know, can have with their students. Absolutely. And all of that is hugely important and needed, especially now. And I think what's interesting, you were kind of mentioning kind of like the bullying aspect. And I remember like growing up where it was a lot of what if you talk to like other people who are maybe in our peer group who would say like, you know, a lot of people would like bag on you or whatever the term is and talk about you and all of that. And it wasn't necessarily bullying, you know, like when we were growing up. And a lot of, you know, our children now are a lot more, they wear a lot more of their feelings like on their sleeves and their shoulders and more sensitive to where I do see a lot more children, especially because I work with high school students who are in need of like therapy and check-ins, and they have a lot of suicidal ideation. And I always think about like what like changed or happened to where I don't know if it was a mark that we missed, if it was I don't know. I think about that when it comes to, you know, the young people in a way that they are not so sensitive to the things that people say and have more like confidence and like pride in themselves, so that anybody who just says boo to you when you walk out the door, you're not wavering and, you know, and you know, crying. And so I think that a lot of that is, you know, those affirmations, that positive, that instilling in children like who they are, you know, and that like everybody's not gonna like you. And I guess not going into the world with like with that thought of like everybody's gonna love you, and then you go out there and you're like, wait a minute, they don't like me, and then it's like, what happened? But if you already kind of know, like, some people are gonna like you, some people are not gonna like you. Your job is to be good to people, to be accepting to people, you know, to be kind to people. And if you do that, you should be able to reap the same. And if you don't, you know, and then you know, can kind of show them the way. My daughter's only 2.5, so we haven't experienced some of those things yet. But even when I think about it, like, oh no, somebody talking about my baby, like, yeah, I hope I wouldn't have to really experience that. But I know, like, starting young and affirming her, and telling her who she is, and having books like this of things that she can be inspired by, that she can hold that, you know, in the back of her mind, to know like, oh no, because I want to be a gymnast, you know, and I am created to do certain things. So like, I know who I am. Like, you can say what you want to say, and yes, it does hurt my feelings because I'm human, but I still have a greater purpose, you know, for myself. So that's awesome that there are those messages, because, you know, some books are like just fun and exciting and fun to read, and then you also have those messages those books that pack on a powerful message for children. So I have like maybe like 2 more questions for us, and I want to talk about how can people now support you as an author who is working and putting your passion and your time and your energy into this. How can people support you now?
Oh man. So, well, the obvious one is, you know, buy the book. If you don't have kids, I'm sure you know some kids, buy the book for their kids. You know, if you, another way to support is if you like the vision and you want this kind of to spread, and, you know, you are able, what you can do is you can partner with me to help me donate books to, you know, schools or organizations. Like I'm donating 35 books to an organization in Oakland next week. But it's nice when, like, a few months back, my friend BJ, he helped me to do that. So where I'm a struggling author, it's kind of hard to always find every organization and donate to them. So if someone could partner with me to help me do that, that's another way to help, because my mission, is really to get my books in the hands of every child, right? And so I get that I have to sell these books to be able to do that, but if we can give them away, that's even better, right? And so if people want to help me do that, that would be a great thing. If you are connected in a way where I can use your platform to talk about what I'm doing and help spread the word, that's another way. If you know somebody who has a platform, you know, be willing to connect me, you know, just things like that. Because my whole thing is just, how do I make this thing well known?
Right.
How do I have it be that parents are saying, hey, Crystel, when are you writing the next book in Inspired to Be? I can't wait to get it. You know, I tell people that I draw like the person that I kind of want to be like, though he's been canceled, is Dr. Zeus. Because I actually feel like, you know, I actually remember his stories from way back then. My kids read his books, you know, and like they're actually memorable, and, you know, people go looking to buy it in this big series. And so I want that type of, you know, response to my books. I want people to say years from now that, like, oh, it's the Inspired to Be book, the one that has this rhyme, you know, like, so yeah, and that requires like to be on like a larger platform than I am now. So if you have a way to help me spread the word of what I'm doing, my vision. That is kind of what I'm looking for really at this point.
Absolutely. And especially for independent authors,
It's hard.
and business, like it literally is. And I always, share with people, like, support like now, like don't wait till a person is successful, or like, oh, I'll support later. Like, support now. Like, even if you don't have children, you can buy the book and gift it, just like you said with donating. Like, I want to say it was around maybe February time, Black History Month, where I would tell people, like, if you want to support Black businesses, like, share, what I'm saying? Share posts, like the post, subscribe to the newsletter, like, anything that you can do to create more visibility is what is helpful and what is needed. And I believe BJ is in the building. I saw like a wave or hey, and everything that even BJ is doing with the Power 100 and all of that is awesome, and it's amazing. And it's a way to really just give different people an opportunity. I know he said maybe the sound went out. Hopefully you can still, can you hear me, Crystel?
Yeah. Okay. I can hear you. And BJ's been someone that I think has partnered with both of us through the Power 100 to work with us to get our books and then donate it to schools. And so it would be good to have more people like that, because like I said, I just really want to, like, when I talk to organizations who, they can't necessarily afford to buy the book, I still want them to have the books for the kids, right? And so I can't give away all my books.
Right, because you're business. You're still a business.
Exactly. Exactly. I end up giving away way more than I should, because that's just I just want, what's important to me is for people to have the book. Like, I do school readings at schools all the time on Zoom and in person. And I don't even like charge the schools, because I'm like, how how many other kids are going to hear these stories just by me doing this, right? And so my biggest thing is just like putting the stories out there. But it would be great to have people who are able to partner with us in that kind of way and make sure that kids have the books.
And so how do they partner with you again?
Just reach out and let's talk. If you're able, just reach out to me. My email is info@CrystelPatterson.com. I'm on Instagram, inspired to be _CP. My website, CrystelPatterson.com. Just reach out and we can talk about however it makes sense to partner. And partnering could come in different forms. I was talking to another lady who runs this online self-esteem platform, and her and I are going to do a course together, like, where my book is kind of used as supplemental information for the course. So there's a bunch of different ways, and I don't know what field everybody's on, but I think it's worth a conversation for us to kind of brainstorm how we might be able to partner.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, the network is invaluable, for real, because I know that even with us being connected through BJ, I think BJ shared that you were releasing a book, and I was like, another off. Like, I just love to connect with people and support, and he knows that, because I've kind of known him for a few years now, and it was just instant like support from day one. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh yes, connect me, and so I know that I was able to go to your book launch and enjoyed that, and got to share in that experience with you, with my daughter, and just those connections, like they're priceless, and there's so much that we have in our community, right within our reach of wealth of knowledge, but sometimes we don't connect, we don't talk, we don't share, and just how much more powerful we can be when we do extend that olive branch and begin to see like how we are interwoven together is important. And so I'm very excited for everything that you are doing, and that you have my support with any and all of your endeavors. I do want to give you an opportunity before we leave off to, if there's anything else that you want to share, if there's anything that you feel like you want people to know or understand about you, about the books, about anything. I just want to give you the space and opportunity to share those final thoughts.
Yeah, so I actually had a conversation with a young lady the other day that I met when I was out at a festival, and it was a really inspiring conversation because she kind of always liked writing, and kind of she gets distracted because her like parents want her to do things the traditional way, you know, go to school, and she just wants to write. And so that conversation just kind of like stuck out to me, because I just feel like I can relate to the conversation that we had, like how she's feeling about, you know, just like knowing what you want to do, but not really knowing the path to do it. And my situation's a little different. I didn't know that this is what I want to do, but the path kind of came to me. And so I just want to encourage people, you know, if you're in a place where you're just not, like, you're unsure why you're here, what you're supposed to be doing, what your purpose is, I just want to like kind of reiterate what I said earlier, the advice I gave to myself. Just hold on and be patient, because I think it will come to you. Like, I'm just like astonished that like this came to me in the way that it did and when it did. Because when I tell you I don't like writing, like I didn't like writing, like I was always like good at it. Like when you had to write in school, and I was always good at it, but it never was one of those things that I was like, oh my gosh, I love writing. Like the little girl that was talking, she loved writing. And I was a complete opposite, you know? But now that I've like something reignited in me from this conversation that I had with my son, and now I think the reason why I'm writing is what is making me love the writing so much, you know? And I would have never expected that. So I'm not saying everyone needs to be a writer, but I think don't be afraid to look for your passion or your purpose in a place that you wouldn't expect it to be. You know, like don't close the door on certain places, because you might find it where you least expect it.
Right. Absolutely. Those are words of wisdom from Miss Crystel Patterson, who has the Inspired to Be series. So make sure that you do support the series. You can start with the first book, as I showed you before, and then she can show you Inspired to Be. I Am Different. Sorry. That is the second book in the series. It's an unlimited series. So as long as you start with the first two, then you're on the right pathway of your own inspiration and success. Make sure that, and this is something that people always ask me too, like, where do you want people to support? Do you want people to support directly from you, from your website, or do you want people to go to our friend Amazon?
Yeah, I'm gonna be really real with y'all, and I wish I could just tell you guys the reasons. But please, if you can, support from my website, at least for now. I will tell you, you'll get a much better product from my website. And I can't control really the product. And it sucks because my name's on the book, whether you get it from Amazon, whether you get it from a bookstore, wherever, my name's on the product. So you're looking, you know, it's my product. But there's some things I really can't control. And so you get the best, most quality product from me right now. I'm working to fix that so that no matter where you go, you get the same quality. And so it's been hard for me to say that when I tell people where to get it. And it seems like getting from someone's website is a little more inconvenient, because like they
gotta take a few extra.
Yeah. And so I added like PayPal as an option, as a payment checkout option. It seems like people prefer that. But yeah, and then I also sign every book if you want me to sign it. I don't assume you want me to sign it, but if you indicate that you want it signed, I'll sign it. So and then just like to keep have just like family talk right here. This thing is literally like a small business operation, and the way you really support a small business is by buying directly from them. buying from Amazon, I will say like the author makes next to nothing, right, off that book. And so just being completely transparent. So to really support, I would prefer for you to buy from my website, but I'm working on the other issues so that people can buy from wherever they want to buy.
Absolutely. So you heard
Did
it
I share too much
directly.
information there?
No. That's I think honesty.
I said, was that TMI?
No, honesty to me is the best policy. And I'm an honest person, so I'm always gonna tell people the truth. Like, it is what it is, So, but I was just gonna say, I had your book in my Amazon cart. And Prime Day is coming up. And as an author and knowing better, it's like, oh, okay, let me do better. So I still need to get my copy directly from you. I am gonna get I Am Different directly from your website, and I'm not gonna get it from Amazon. I'm gonna follow directions. So everybody out there, you make sure you support direct, okay, from her website. We appreciate all of you who have tuned in with us today. And if you're watching on a replay, we appreciate you just as well for tuning in all this time. Thank you, Crystel Patterson, again for your time. And we will see you next time. I will stop the recording.
Oh, no. Okay.
Oh, wait.
My son literally just came in. Do you need to go pee-pee?